After that abrupt end to round 2 of the playoffs for the Leafs against the Panthers and losing in 5 games, Leaf fans all around needed to see change. Some sort of change. Well, today at about noon, you got it. Kyle Dubas is not going to be back as Leafs general manager, and they will be looking somewhere else. And with Kyle Dubas not at the helm, I would be shocked if Sheldon Keefe was back. The reason I say that, I believe they were together in the Sault Ste. Marie Greyhounds, they were together in the Toronto Marlies, and they're together with the Leafs. They're glued to the hip. With Kyle now gone, and whomever ends up taking the spot, they probably want their guy at the helm. So I would be shocked if Sheldon Keefe coaches at the start of next season. Now, where do we start? I'm not going to break down the press conference too much because I'll leave that to the radio shows. There's just so much you can digest and speculate and all that stuff. I'm not here to do that. I'm talking about what happened, what the tenure of Kyle Dubas looked like, and what's to come. Okay? Let's start with the tenure of Kyle Dubas. The Shanna plan was this all along. 9 years ago, Lou Lamoriello at the helm, Kyle Dubas, the general manager of the Toronto Marlies. You have Mike Babcock at the helm for the Leafs bench boss. A few years later, Lou Lamoriello goes to the island, and Kyle Dubas takes over. That was all part of the Shanna plan. The Shanna plan was supposed to have Kyle Dubas take us to the promised land. Well, then Kyle Dubas comes out and everyone's asking questions. Will he be able to sign all these great young players, Marner, Matthews, Nylander? His response, we can and we will. Well, he sure dished out those contracts. The Nylander one we all remember. Was it had to go to December 1st for the cutoff? It was like the last day of November at like 11:30 and contract was signed. The Mitch Marner stuff, we know the shenanigans that happened there, but he got a big money deal. Austin Matthews, wasn't a whole lot of talk around there, got his big money deal. The thought of Kyle Dubas there was that, okay, you get these big contracts done, right? 2, 3, maybe a little bit tight here to start, which is fine. 2 or 3 years down the road, you'll have some flexibility money-wise because the cap would go up. Well, 6 months after Mitch Marner signs that deal and these trio of guys have their big money, even though Nylander's not even making $7 million, but you guys know what I mean. COVID hits. And to this day, the cap has never gone up. So that whole plan got thrown right in the garbage, and that threw the Leafs into cap hell for years and years and years. That's exactly what happened. Now, I'm not saying that all Kyle Dubas' moves were great and it was just COVID that killed it. No. Do I agree with Patrick Marleau's contract? I mean, not really. Because you had to attach a first-round pick to get rid of him. Peter Mrazek. You'd attach a first-round pick to get rid of him. You got a pretty broken Nick Foligno. You gave away a first-round pick. Sure, none of these deals paid off. Now, did this year's one pay off? Look, if you look at hindsight, they only won one round. No. But Ryan O'Reilly was great. Wasn't healthy like crazy. Noel Acciari, arguably one of my favorite acquisitions at the deadline. Jake McCabe, Sam Lafferty, Luke Shen, Derek Gustafsson. Still don't understand that one. I loved this trade deadline. We all did. But in the past, there were a lot of questionable moves. I thought Kyle Dubas got much, much better as the years went along. However, there comes a time when it's a results-based business. I'm not saying this is all Kyle Dubas' fault, because he made this team. He brought in John Tavares. He re-signed Morgan Rielly. He brought in Luke Shen. He brought in one of the best playoff players out there, Ryan O'Reilly. But in the end, the guys on the ice have to do the job. And they didn't. So the fault, sure, players. 90% players. Because they had the team on paper to beat the Panthers. They did not. They flat out didn't. You know, a lot of the contracts he signed, question marks. Watching Jake Muzzin fall apart and have that problem, unfortunate. Watch Peter Mrazek get very similar money to Frederik Andersen, who is now in the conference finals. Yeah, people love Freddie. People hate Peter Mrazek. The only people that don't, the Chicago Blackhawks. So are there a lot of questionable moves for Kyle Dubas? Sure. There are also some fantastic moves. Bringing in Michael Bunting. Bringing in, a lot of these depth guys who you don't see coming that put together great seasons. Michael Bunting was one of those. Calle Yarncrux, still questionable about the year length, especially watch him in the playoffs and doing nothing. The term, scary. The amount, not so much. I believe he drafted, did he draft Joseph Wall? No, I believe that was the Matthews draft. So that was Dale Hunter and Lou and all them. So there are question marks for Kyle Dubas. Sure, there were some awful moves. There were some great moves. That's the general manager in a nutshell. You're not going to be perfect. You're really not. The Jake Muzzin trade at the time, phenomenal move. We all know how important Jake Muzzin was to the team when he was on the ice. The Matt Murray trade, disaster. Samsonov, fantastic. So I thought he did make some great moves, but he had to make all these bargain moves. You couldn't re-sign Freddie. You had to acquire Matt Murray and then get them to eat money and this and that because of the core four problem where they were eating up so much money. Now, where does this lead us moving forward now? Because with Kyle Dubas now gone, you got to get somebody else. We were hearing George McPhee of the Vegas Golden Knights. You've heard Brad Treliving of the Flames, albeit, the last big trade he made was to Chuck, but he didn't have a choice because he was going to leave. So that's an option. I don't know what to expect. What I am curious about now, with the Leafs having, and I'm not going to get too into depth with this, I'll save this for the season review, offseason preview stuff. You have 12 unrestricted free agents this year. 12 guys. That is a crap load. You also have Austin Matthews and William Nylander to re-sign, if you want to re-sign them. Their contracts are up after next season. They're eligible to sign after July 1st. So what do? Whoever comes in is not going to have the contract laid out there for Matthews, Nylander, Marner, and all that stuff down the road. It's going to be a new guy with new intentions. He may be hard to negotiate with. Who knows? Matthews clearly wants to be a Leaf. It's very evident. All in his press conferences, even the end press conference, he's decked out in Leafs gear saying how he loves it here. And let's be honest, dude loves the limelight. He loves the attention. Where else can you get attention? One of the biggest hockey markets in all of hockey. In Toronto. So, it wouldn't make sense for him to leave, but money talks. So we'll see what happens moving forward. It's going to be a really interesting offseason. I think might have said it in the last video. In the final game. I can't remember what I said in that video. It was all a blur. It's the most important offseason in this core's history. It really is. We say that every year, but now with Kyle Dubas gone, probably Sheldon Keefe gone, Shanna plan blown up, we'll see what happens now. For me, it's just a sit back and let's see. I want to know all your thoughts, though. Let me know in the comments below. Now, I'll do a formal season review, off-season preview, probably whatever the Jays' next off day is. If it lines up for me schedule-wise as well, I'll probably figure it out then, maybe in a week or two. Because then I think it'll probably be the Stanley Cup Finals at that point. So then we'll have an idea what's going on with the Leafs. Maybe have a GM by then. Who knows? All right, so you know what, guys? That is going to do it for this one. If you enjoyed the video and... hell, if you just liked the video altogether, smack the like button. Do appreciate it. Hit the subscribe button. You guys not already. Comment down below your thoughts on Kyle Dubas getting fired, or I wouldn't say fired, getting relieved of his duties, or parted ways with, whatever words you want to use, because they weren't bringing him back. All your thoughts. Let me know in the comments below. What'd you like of his tenure as a Leaf? Do you think this was the right move, the wrong move? Let me know, guys, in the comments below. Twitter, Instagram, Discord, TikTok, all those links are down below, so follow up there if you guys have not done so already. And I'll talk to you guys, Jays Edition, later on tonight. Game 1 of the 3-game set at Rogers Center versus the Baltimore Orioles. Who's pitching for Baltimore? I can't remember, but Yusei Kikuchi gets the ball for the Blue Jays, and it is Kyle Gibson for the Orioles there at 7:07 at Rogers Center. And as for the Leafs, I'll talk to you guys throughout the offseason with some crazy, crazy stuff. Hoping to talk about at least. All right, so thank you guys so much for listening and watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. and we'll talk to you guys then.